Brow, if you're with us. She is the one who suggested that I pursue this with Jamie. And as you'll see, we're on quite an adventure here. Naturalist Jamie Krupka is the Chief Program Officer for the Outdoor Discovery Center, and he has been with the ODC in Holland since 2003. He earned a BA in Environmental Biology from the University of Dayton and is presently ensconced in a kayak in a marsh, which he will proceed to tell us about. So without further ado, here's Jamie.
Thank you guys very much. I appreciate it. Yeah, so my name is Jamie Krupka. I very much appreciate you inviting me to do this. This is a great time. With my new role at Outdoor Discovery Center, I spent a lot of time in the office, so spending a little bit of time in a kayak is not so bad. I'm going to take you on a trip this morning. We're in the Macatawa Marsh. Pardon for the squinting. I happened to turn my kayak so you could see my face, but now I'm looking at the sun. But we're in the middle of the marsh, and we're going to explore the marsh to see what kinds of wildlife we can find. We'll talk about the plants, the animals, the watershed, and all things related to the Macatawa Marsh. So feel free to ask questions as we go. I can read the screen as things are shared with me, so I appreciate that. I'm going to start off by just saying I'm in the marsh where you could see the dead trees even over my shoulder. These are the trees you can see from the River Avenue Bridge. So I'm just off of the main channel of the river. The River Avenue is behind me here. I'm going to see if I can maybe turn my kayak just a touch. And you can kind of maybe pick up in the background some industrial stuff. That is River Avenue behind me. So we're starting at this point in the marsh because this is just adjacent to where you can get into the marsh if you wanted to kayak. So there is a launch. If you're coming down River Avenue, you come down south just before the River Avenue Bridge. Some people in the area call it Window on the Waterfront. Some people call it Van Brott Park. Regardless, there is a launch to your right, just adjacent to the wastewater treatment plant and just before the bridge. So there is a place you can park, drag your kayak down to the water's edge like I did, and get into the water. From this point, if you go to the pier heads, going behind me, I would give myself easily about an hour to an hour and a half, depending on the winds. This is a good spot to launch because you're just past the bend in the river, which is by like Van Brott Park and Padnos and such that do sometimes block the wind. So if you're not the strongest of paddlers, then being in this area here is good because you have mostly only a very light current to fight versus a strong wind. So that's what I'm going to choose to do. We do this frequently at Outdoor Discovery Center with kids, with public programs. We do a lot of things from this point up towards Windmill Island in the marsh. I don't know exactly what we're going to find today as we're exploring in this marsh, but I wanted to start here to show you kind of where we're at. So the trees around me, these are all these dead trees, a lot of willows and things, cattails. This is the part of the marsh that as of about 3-4 years ago now was dry land. I'd be, parked on dirt right now a couple of years ago, but since the last couple of years, high water levels, now this part of the marsh has been flooded. This is a natural occurrence in this type of a marsh, which is actually just a naturally occurring part of the river. Because Lake Macatawa is really just a drowned river mouth. So it's just a place where the water kind of spread out a little bit over land. So it's not really a true lake, if you're thinking about it geologically speaking, because it doesn't really have a basin like a traditional lake would. It's always silting in because the sediment that washes down the river, it is a drowned riverbed or drowned river mouth. And that is our Lake Macatawa, but that's okay. It's actually a great filter. So all of the water that's coming from my left that way is coming downriver and flowing through this marsh. And in doing so, it's passing through these areas where we have the cattails and the willows. And there's a constant rebirth that's happening as the plants get flooded and die. These trees behind me get flooded and die. New trees will start to take over. You'll have plants that can survive these major flooding events over multiple years and plants that cannot. But again, it makes for a diverse habitat. We do have a huge cattail marsh here, which provides lots of habitat. But you also have things like willows and cottonwoods and other types of trees that will, speckled alder that might live along the edges of the river. And then when you have these times when the water level's low, they'll start to colonize these sandbars and these islands in the middle of the river. So this space here is one. Again, I'm going to take my paddle. I'm going to stick it straight down to see how far I go before I hit dirt. Looks like I have, let's see. So right there, I've got from the tip of my paddle to my hand, which maybe is only about 24 inches before I hit something reasonably solid. It's probably muck. If I was to put my foot down outside of my boat, I'm sure I would lose a shoe. It's pretty thick. I mean, there's sediments that have settled in this place, which has created this little barrier, you know, this little island. So not a very deep spot in the river. And for that matter, most of the river is not very deep, but this especially, again, just a couple of years ago, this was a place that was dry land. And birds have taken to it. If you look over my shoulder, I'm going to try to paddle around and get closer to it in a moment here. But you'll see cormorants up on trees. Looks like, okay, so I'm going to try do my best here. Over my shoulder, right there is an osprey. So it's not on that highest point of that tree, but that is an osprey. So there's a couple of cormorants, double-crested cormorants and osprey that are hanging out right now. So if you happen to go take a walk on window on the waterfront, driving over River Avenue Bridge, there very well could be bird of prey, the osprey that loves to eat fish, or even the cormorants that also love to eat fish too. So I'm going to turn my camera around. You don't need to see me anymore. You want to see the marsh. So this will be a chance here for if you have a question, I'll let you ask any quick questions before I start moving. Again, I don't know what I'm going to find. Often the adventure of this experience is just seeing what we can find. Is it ducks? Is it dragonflies? Is it turtles? Fish? Birds, of course. I'm a big bird watcher. So, well, I don't know exactly what we'll find. We're just going to go exploring here. Got to keep your eyes and your ears open both. Right now, I hear a lot of road noise. Fortunately, they told me that you're not picking that up significantly, which is great. But I'm hoping to be able to get into the marsh, have the cattails kind of surround me, and then maybe we'll pick up some things like a marsh wren. Maybe we'll hear sora, maybe wood ducks. I have found least bittern in here, great blue herons, and a variety of other birds too. So we'll see what we can find. But I'm going to flip my camera around so we can kind of go in a forward direction, so to speak, and you all can see what I'm seeing. There we go. So hopefully I'm not going to make any of you seasick. I apologize for any of you that are watching this. I do have to paddle to be able to move a little bit. So you're gonna tip side to side. Hopefully nobody needs Dramamine to be able to watch this video. All right, so in the marsh, we have, I'm gonna look straight on ahead. There's lots of dragonflies. You're not gonna be able to pick them up terribly easily, I'm guessing, on the view here, especially because I'm kind of pointed towards the sun. But this is a wonderful habitat for a lot of insects. And actually, dragonflies are one of our best resources for managing mosquito populations. Sometimes people call a dragonfly a mosquito hawk. And they're going to use a marsh like this because even though I am, again, in the river, you can even see how green the water looks. That's a plant called duckweed. And there's some other plants in here. I see other flowers we'll talk about too. But you're looking at a place where the water's not moving very fast. So a dragonfly could easily lay its eggs in this marsh and then know that its eggs won't be swept away. So we have probably 10 different species of dragonfly and damselfly that you'll find here in the marsh. During certain times of the year, you're more likely to find species than others. But on the whole, I'd say probably 10 species is safe to say for dragonfly and damselfly. If you're not familiar with damselflies, those are the ones that look very skinny. A lot of times I'll have kids tell me it looks like a baby dragonfly. Well, not quite. They're a very skinny looking dragonfly. And for the damselflies, many of the ones that we see along the river here are called a bluet, B-L-U-E-T. And that's a very nondescript example, like the bluet species in general. And I'm not good enough to tell you what exact species of bluets we have, but 2 to 3 is a fair guess. And then certainly other species of dragonflies too. And they're all part of that order of insects called Odonata, the dragonflies and damselflies. So as I paddle here through our habitat. Now I've gotten to the point where I'm actually in some open water. I'm still not guessing it's very deep. I'm gonna go ahead as you're looking there. I'm gonna put my paddle down and see. Oh yeah, okay. So I've gotten to a point now where I am about 4.5 feet deep. It still has a very soft bottom, again, being the river that it is. There's a lot of sediment here, but we have a little bit deeper water now, and that's actually why we're not seeing all of the duckweed and other plants and all the other vegetation. So what keeps those plants, the duckweeds, in place is the slower water, but then also you have other things like cattails that will hold on to the sediments, but also slow the water down and make for a better habitat for the duckweed. So we're going to paddle over towards the old pump house. It's a building that you may have seen a long window on the waterfront. You can go up and stand on it and look out into the marsh. And I know this is an area where in the past, we have had a species of duck-like bird called a common gallinule that nests in addition to American coots. So an American coot is a small duck-like bird. It has a very distinct way of swimming, like a gallinule does, in that it has a white beak, an overall kind of a charcoal gray body, but when they swim, their head bobs sort of like a chicken when it walks, where it goes up back and forth, back and forth. So if you see a small grayish duck with a white beak kind of doing the forward, backward head bobbing, then that is an American coot. But we also have the gallinule that lives in this marsh, and that's one of those species that is not nearly as common as the coot. And if you're a bird watcher, you're pretty excited to see it because there are not that many of them nesting around here. We're at kind of the northernmost end of their range. Not seeing any right now, but I'm keeping my eyes open. A lot of the times those coots and even the ducks will nest on things like what I'm going to show you here in a moment, an old muskrat lodge. So muskrats are herbivores. They're a rodent that eats a lot of plants. And so what I have right here in front of me is an old muskrat lodge. My guess is that it's a couple of years old and not recent. And it almost appears as if maybe there was a duck or a goose. Canada geese love to use these things and make their nests on them. A couple of dragonflies flying around it too. Oh, I don't know what that one is. So there's a dragonfly off to kind of to my left, where that large stalk of cattail is, just beyond that. But it has a forward projection of its wings. So typical dragonfly body, but kind of it throws its wings forward. And that's going to help me identify what it is when I get back to the office. I see a little bit of amber in its wings, blue on its body. My guess is it's some sort of a club tail. I don't think I'm going to get you even close enough to get a look at it. It's going to see my boat and fly away. My boat's almost pointing towards it right now, almost dead center in the frame, in line with the boat. So it has a blue-green set of eyes, kind of a pale blue body, a little bit of an amber wash in its wings, and it thrusts its wings forward. So certainly one of the cool species of dragonflies we have here that I don't know that particular one. I got to look that up. But back to our muskrat lodge. I'm not seeing any feathers on it currently, but it looks like there's remnants of some feathers from maybe like a Canada goose. So they'll use these old lodges. Because then it's a safe place to be out of the water. The muskrat will actually access the lodge from down below. So they'll make a huge pile of cattail leaves, and then they'll kind of burrow out the middle of it. They'll make their own hole in the middle of their pile of cattails, and that becomes their lodge for the year, for the duration of the season. During the winter months, as long as this doesn't freeze over solid, you'll still have muskrats active. What they'll do is chew holes in the ice to be able to, so they can still get out and swim. So again, they're not tied to animal prey. They're not a predator, they're a plant eater. So as long as they still have access to the plants and their roots under the water that's not frozen yet, they're fine. They don't have to worry about anything. They don't go anywhere. All right, so there we go. We've got a look now at that old pump house. I see directly in front of me a type of a bird in those cattails, that little clump directly in front of me. It's called a spotted sandpiper. I'm going to let my boat just slowly go towards it and keep watching the center of your screen. Oh, there he goes. Flew off. So a spotted sandpiper. I knew it was a spotted sandpiper by its size, two, its color. It was overall kind of like a sandy gray color. And then three was behavior. So I saw it standing there, and it was kind of like a first grader that has to go to the bathroom, constantly ticking its tail, or kind of like, doing the little potty dance that little kids have to do. He was doing that. He was kind of bobbing his tail up and down, standing in that particular spot. And then when he flew away from me, the last part of the behavior that I saw that told me it was a spotted sandpiper was that he flew away and he stayed very close to the water. They'll fly all of like 12 to 18 inches above the water, usually pretty fast wing beats, stiff wing beats, you might have it say in a field guide. And then also sometimes I'll make a call. With that one did not. But those are the things that help me identify that. All right, so now I'm going to get into the thick of the marsh, and I'll be honest, I'm not sure how far I'm going to get, but I'm going to keep on going. I'm hoping to get us all the way to Windmill Island through the marsh. So you could see I could take the path of least resistance by going up near Freedom Village. That's too easy. I'm going to go this way. I'm going to see if I can find my way through the middle of the marsh, because that's where the good stuff is. And also potentially get it so that the sun's not directly in your face the whole time. So I'm going to turn my boat. I'm going to find a spot where I hope to find a hole in the marsh to kind of work my way up through. Although we'll see. It might be that I've got to turn around and take the easy way. We'll have to check it out. As I paddle through here, keep your eyes on movement. I'm certainly doing that, and I'm scanning the water as I go. Lots of dragonflies flying around. But this is where you'll find the little pockets that have things like ducks, certainly wood ducks, the coots, great blue herons, least bittern, American bittern, mallards, blue-winged teal. These are all species of birds that we could find hanging out in these areas that are less busy. So these cattails that we have in here, most of them appear to be our native species. So we have our common cattail, but then also we have the narrow-leaf cattail, which is an invasive species, and they hybridize. So my first impression is that it looks like a lot of this is our native cattail, but it's certainly possible that we have some hybridization, and so some non-native species, given that they're hybrids of cattail in the marsh. On the whole, it's still a decent cattail marsh. I'm not going to get into the ins and outs of narrow-leaf versus common cattail. They're both used by red-winged blackbirds, muskrats. It's just the narrow-leaf is much more aggressive. So that's what makes it a problem, because it outcompetes our native populations of other plants, including just the common cattail. It outcompetes other species. So makes it so you won't find spatterdock, sweetwater lily, which is a couple of species of flowers we can hopefully find today. All right, I'm looking ahead, and I might have to go backwards because this is pretty thick. I'm not even seeing a spot where I could try to poke my way through. What I'm going to do is I do see a hole I'm going to poke my head into, so you can kind of see how pretty interesting you can get into the middle of the marsh and get to a point where kind of all the world around you dissolves away, because all you are is sitting in the middle of cattails. And I see a spot right in front of me here. I'm going to kind of weasel my way into the cattails. Hopefully not get stuck. So at this point, the cattails are so dense, I stowed my paddle, and I'm kind of like doing the breaststroke through the middle of the cattails, pushing them aside. So here in the marsh, now I'm surrounded completely by cattails, but there's not really solid ground. There is a species of plant. I'm going to flip the camera again so I can talk to you. There we go. There is a species of plant that lives in this type of a habitat that makes its own. There's a damselfly right there. This is a female of one of the species. I don't know what kind. There you go. You go back to my boat, hang out there. So it's just about to say a plant that actually makes its own island. So it's called common reed or Phragmites. And you're going to find that in marshes like this. I'm fortunate to see, as I look around here, I don't see any Phragmites. Makes me very happy. We're doing a lot with our Project Clarity and our Macatawa Greenway, River Greenway project to eradicate things like invasive species. Project Clarity is all about water quality, but the Macatawa River Greenway is all about conservation of our habitats. And they have a lot of overlap between those two kind of projects that we work on. And one of them certainly is invasive species. The common reed is one that we've managed both with fire, which isn't the most effective means of elimination of it because it doesn't actually do anything to the roots, but also chemical application. So we have contracted with people in the past to apply a water soluble, I don't recall the name of it, but it's kind of like a Roundup, but it is water friendly. And when it hits vegetation, that's when it kills it. But when it reaches the water, it becomes inert. So we do spray that. And actually the only way you can really effectively apply that is with a helicopter. So if you've ever seen a helicopter flying over the marsh very low and spraying something, that may be people that we have contracted with to help eradicate the common reed or Phragmites. It grows in colonies. So again, I don't see any around here. I was kind of hoping to see some, but at the same time, very happy that I'm not. It looks like a very, very tall ornamental grass. That is why it was brought here, because people liked it as an ornamental grass. And once you have one plant growing, it will create its own substrate to keep on growing larger and larger and larger. So from an aerial view, you'd be able to look down and see when there's a small little pocket of it. It's almost circular. It's truly impressive the way that it grows from rhizomes, those roots. It grows from the rhizomes and spreads out, getting bigger and bigger. So from a helicopter view, you can see that Phragmites and be able to apply an herbicide directly to that area. So you're eliminating the overspray or the other issues that might happen with killing plants. It's managing of a habitat, but that is one of the ways we do it, is with the helicopter application of an herbicide. We also have purple spotted, or excuse me, a purple loosestrife, not knapweed, purple loosestrife that we can find in here. And again, I'm not seeing any, making me happy. That is a plant that is another invasive species that was brought here from Europe, or actually that's an Asian species brought here because people liked it as a flower, but unfortunately it escaped. One plant can have millions of seeds. They're light enough to blow in the wind. Like a pepper or a salt shaker, they can shake out of a plant the way that the seeds are held in the seed casing. But then also they float, kind of like a speck of pepper floats on the water. So they have 3 different methods of dispersal, making it so anytime they're anywhere near water, they can spread very easily. One of the ways that you manage purple loosestrife, we'll never get rid of it. One of the ways you manage purple loosestrife is by using a biological control. And that biological control is 2 species of beetles that are in the genus Gallerusula. And they are native to where that plant is from, the loosestrife is from. And they actually will eat it as an adult, but also lay their eggs on it, and their larvae will eat the leaves. So again, you're not going to kill the loosestrife, you're going to keep it down so that it doesn't have as great of an impact. Unfortunately, loosestrife is here to stay. I don't think there's any way to get rid of it. But that being said, it is another way that we're trying to manage our marsh to provide the best conditions for a healthy environment. So biodiversity is a big part of it. Eradicating invasive species is one of the ways that you can help our native species flourish and create a more biodiverse environment. All right, I'm going to give you a second to think about it. If you have any questions, I'm going to flip my camera around again. I can reach that without tipping my boat, right? There we go. All right, I'm going to start to work my way out on the marsh. If you have any questions or anything, feel free to share those in the chat. Well, again, I gotta do the backstroke to get out of here, pushing my way. pulling my way out. Oh, the marsh has a nice smell to it today. I don't know if you can see at the base of all these cattails, looks like probably a good maybe 6 or 8 inches up on the cattail leaves from the water is where you see there's a line of duckweed. The recent rain that we had elevated the water level here. Again, somewhere within the last 24, 36 hours, that water level rose and has already receded. We have a very flashy watershed. So that's not necessarily a bad thing or a good thing. It's just a fact. We have such a small watershed. When any volume of water comes through, you have these surges that come through very quickly. If you think about things like large rivers, you know, the Colorado, the Mississippi, the Missouri, the Ohio, if they have storms upriver, it might take more than a week for the realization of that water to reach lower areas. Well, here in the Macatawa, you're looking at 24 to 36 hours, and you see that water level rise, but also recedes quite quickly. All right, like I said, I'm gonna have to go around to try to get up towards Windmill Island. It's pretty dense to my left. Again, I'm keeping my eyes open for wildlife. I'm kind of surprised I haven't seen a turtle yet. Getting kind of thick here. I think I just ran over a spot where the water level was very low. I think I was probably in like less than 6 inches of actual water before there was the sediments at the bottom of the river. All right, so we're gonna cut around the edge of the marsh. Keep my eyes open. This is where you'll see little things poking their heads out of the marsh at you. Canada geese are really common here. I'm actually, I saw a family group several minutes ago now. They weren't anywhere that I could get you to be able to see them, but certainly the Canada geese live in this habitat. Belted kingfisher. They have a rattle-like call. You'll often see them on trees perched over top of the water. They have a overall kind of a not maybe like a slate blue color to them. And they have a pretty long beak that a lot of people, if you were to just see it outright, you might think it looks like a woodpecker, but it has a beak that it uses to pierce into the water to go for fish, other critters in the water. So mostly fish though. But we'll sometimes hear them rattling at the water's edge, sitting on a tree branch, you know, 10, 15, 20 feet above the water's surface, looking for a fish swimming around. Now, the design of their beak is such that when they hit the water, it actually allows them to go directly into the water without slowing down very much. It has that conical shape or cone shape, so they can kind of slice right into the water quickly to get to the fish that they're trying to capture. So that's why a lot of people, when they see the beak, think it looks more like a woodpecker with its overall shape. Okay, I do see, I think, access towards Windmill Island. I'm gonna work my way over there. I see some wildflowers that I'm gonna see if I can find any flowers for you. Cattails are quite tall, so this is good to see. We have anywhere between a 6 and 8 foot tall cattail around. I'm sure I've paddled past, you know, hundreds of animals that I haven't seen because it is so dense. A lot of people are surprised to find that we have this type of a habitat here in Holland, but it absolutely is a very healthy marsh, and all the sediments that are in it are natural. It's a good thing. That's why you find plants like this yellow one right here. I'm looking for a yellow flower that's close enough for us to see this lily in front of me. It's called spatterdock, and it has a yellow flower that's about the size of a golf ball. But I'm not seeing any flowers right at edge of it for us to see. Well, I'm going to keep on going. I'm hoping to be able to find one. Almost got stuck there on some cattails. So the cattails actually have a, the cattails are sticking to my boat right now. I got to keep on paddling through it. There you go. Come on. They actually have a hollow, sorry, stuck, and I just whacked myself with cattails. They have a hollow stem, so they float. So I just went over a nice little patch of cattail that hung up underneath my boat. And those chambers are one of the reasons why a muskrat lodge will be warm for the muskrat when they go into them for the winter time, because again, the leaves are chambered, kind of like corrugated cardboard, so they're insulating. Air trapped inside of them. Now I'm getting further and further away from hearing road noise, construction noise. Water's flowing pretty good through here. Actually, I can see the duckweed is moving in front of me. So there's a nice little current, not a fast one, but a nice little current coming through here. It's great. Very peaceful out here today. Oh, there you go. I see a spatter dock. I'm going to actually get the boat closer to. So given the rise in the water that we've had recently, I wonder if some of these flowers are actually submerged at the moment. But the spatter dock in front of me, I'm going to kind of get the boat pointed in a way here. So just off the right side of the bow, you're going to be able to see one of those golf ball sized flowers. Might be able to see it now coming into view. Off the right hand side of my frame there. So again, it's about a golf ball size yellow flower. They're held up on a stiff stem above the water. So the leaves of the spatter dock are also held up on a stiff stem above the water. Unlike sweet water lilies that float, they have a long stem that doesn't have any, it's not rigid. So they have this long tentacle-like stem that they just ebb and flow with the water levels. The spatter dock, which is another type of a lily, but they have these erect stems, so they hold their leaves up completely out of the water at a time like now. If it was a high water time, then they might actually be mostly submerged. I do see that there are plants, oh good, again, 5-6 inches up the stems of these. And so this whole area, all these plants, they were slowing down the water. So we didn't have like a storm surge out at Lake Michigan. They were slowing down the water as it came down the river. Again, more trees. Those trees you see in the distance there are ones that, as a matter of a couple of years ago, would have been completely alive. Looks like a lot of willows, but I feel like I see a couple of speckled alder in there, which is another species that can survive reasonably wet soils, but completely flooded, not so much. So they've died for now. Doesn't mean they're gone. Nothing killed those but water, but that's okay. They are still providing habitat. I see woodpecker holes in those trees. Those are those places where the osprey will actually look for a perch. And sometimes in a marsh, if the trees were a little bit more established, those trees would be good places for something like an osprey or an eagle to make a nest. They're a little bit small of a tree to be able to have them support a nest, but certainly a good species to have here in the marsh, can slowing the water down, providing habitat. Downy woodpeckers, I just heard a downy woodpecker a moment ago. Red belly woodpeckers, chickadees, titmice, birds that make holes in trees would love trees like this. You think about it. You don't have any ground predators out here. You don't have to worry about a raccoon climbing up into your nest and eating your kids, you know? So this is a really good place. If you're a chickadee, this is a very desirable habitat because now you don't have ground predators to worry about. You might have other predators, but you've eliminated one whole lot of predators that could be a problem to you and your reproduction of your offspring. So I do see a flock of Canada geese right about center of the screen top. There's a flock of Canada geese going by. They're no longer in, the individual pairs because the young have achieved the level where now they're hanging out in flocks again. For a while there in like March and April, we were seeing 2 of them at a time. That was because it was a pair of birds that was hanging out. And now we're seeing flocks of them again as they're starting to transition towards that fall time frame. Even though it's only August, they're starting to transition towards that fall time frame where groups of birds will hang out together again. All right, I'm looking to see what I can do about getting through the marsh here. I'm looking for an opening. Don't know if I'm going to find one. Well, that one's kind of blocked there. See if I can find one through this next little gap here. Oh, I might see a spot. I'm going to go backwards just a touch. I'd love to make it all the way over to Windmill Island. That's my objective here. If you ever have a chance to come out and paddle in the marsh, I highly encourage it. It's pretty fun. Unique wildlife. Everything else kind of melts into the world behind you. Let's see if I can get around this. Good. Oh, I see a turtle. He's actually on a log. It's going to be hard to see because it's in the sun. Shoot. So this is a map turtle. I'm going to do what I can to get you guys to see it. I'm going to try to point my kayak directly towards it, but I'm going to try to first position it so that, shoot, it went in the water already. I'm going to go see if I can find it though. If I can catch it, then I can show you. This species of turtle is called a map turtle. Map turtles are very common species here. Lots of logs out here. I think that's why this guy was here. Nope, I don't see it anymore. Sometimes they'll have their heads poking up above the water, and I can squeak down and grab them. Not the case today. So a map turtle has a specially designed shell that on its back. So it's not its scapula, which is its belly, or its carapace, though. The back actually is kind of like the keel of a boat. So as opposed to being rounded, it's peaked. And that peaked shell allows them to live in faster moving water habitats, so rivers. So because they have that keeled shell, they can move in fast moving water pretty well. Speaking of fast moving water, I'm seeing water moving through here, but I'm not sure if I'm gonna be able to get around. Just checking it out. I'd love to get through the marsh here. I might be stuck. We'll see. And just pick out the windmill in the distance there. See turkey vultures soaring behind it. Yep, unfortunately, I don't see, maybe. I think I just saw a break in the cattails. I have to do some swimming again to get through it. All right, I don't know if you can see it, but I think I see a gap in the cattails. I'm gonna kind of, like I said, do some swimming through it. If you're not a fan of spiders, you might not want to do this. Every now and then you get a little friend to drop down on you. There's nothing in here that's going to hurt you. There we go. That was a good little spot there. You also won't come out of the marsh clean. So I have, the wood duck just took off. I have fully doused myself in now duckweed. Oh boy, I might be stuck again. I got to keep looking though. Oh, great blue heron, I hear. All right, I'm not seeing a gap, so I'm going to see if I can speed around this side. There's a channel closer to Windmill Island that I'm trying to get to. It's possible that I'll get myself stuck. You might have large mammals that live in the marsh too. When you do have these areas where there's a little bit of something solid, it's not impossible to have things like deer living in the marsh. Deer are really good swimmers, actually. So as long as they can find a place to get potentially, whoops, don't knock the phone in the water. As long as they can find a place to get themselves out of the water occasionally, they don't mind being out here. Lots of tree branches in here. There we go. Look at that, another nice little opening. Another spot here, we've got a bunch of dead trees. Again, looking for other wildlife. I'm surprised I've not seen, oh, there's more wood ducks, but they're just at a distance that you guys can't see. I apologize. It's hard to sneak up on a wood duck. Ducks are one of those species of, ooh, I just had a muskrat too. Ducks are one of those species of birds that have eyes on the side of their head. So they pretty much have 270 vision, where they can see just about everything except immediately behind them. So sneaking up on a duck, really hard. Eyes on the side of your head gives you views all around. All right, just taking a quick look here to see if I have any gaps in the vegetation. There was a muskrat that quickly saw me and got out of dodge when he saw me. So I think I see a gap. What I'm actually looking for is places where there's not a lot of duckweed, because that means the water is moving through there. So right here, I have a spot where I can actually see a lack of duckweed, making me believe, hopefully not false hopes, keep going over that log there, that there's water actually flowing. This is kind of like in a northeasterly direction. There's a current right now carrying me down this way. So this is going, it is going north right now. So I have a current taking me from the marsh. I'm not paddling at all. There's a current taking me from the marsh in a northerly direction. You can actually see the current coming out of the cattails here. This is really cool. I've never been over in this spot. And it's taking me all the way over to Windmill Island. So as opposed to going towards Freedom Village, now what I'm having happen is the water's flowing towards Windmill Island, to which it will reach the Macatawa main channel, the Macatawa River. That's fun. I don't think I've ever made it through that particular section of the marsh before. Oh, I see actually a sweet water lily. Now there's enough of a current. I'm actually having to fight a current now. I feel like one of those Olympic kayakers on the rivers last week, right? So here is our typical water lily. It's called a fragrant or a sweet water lily. The leaves of it, as you can see it just off the right bow of my boat. The leaves of it are floating on the water surface. A little bit of that flower is upright, but for the most part, the leaves float right on the surface. This is our second lily that we've seen. This is the one that would be the most typical of our habitats here. And there's a real current coming through the marsh here. This is very interesting. It may be actually not just water, but wind. So I'm actually facing, let me think here right now. The sun is almost over my back. So I'm facing west. But what I'm experiencing is a current coming from the west towards me. And it's possible that this is wind. The wind is actually pushing the water up the river path and into the marsh. So as I look down, I'm seeing water, and the plants that are in the water are actually all flowing the opposite direction from Lake Michigan. So there's a little bit of a reverse current going on here. Not that there's tides or anything like that. I remember when I was a kid, my dad tried to tease me that there were tides in Lake Erie. I grew up near Lake Erie, and he would tell me about how there were tides in Lake Erie. I didn't know any better. There's not a tide that I'm experiencing right now as the water rushes upstream, but I think it's potentially wind. I think there's a good set of waves that are probably lapping at the pier heads today, and wind coming from the west that's pushing the water upstream. Again, that being a dry river mouth, or excuse me, a flooded river mouth, makes sense. So I'm going to just like paddle out into this current, and now the boat just kind of goes. This is fun. You don't typically have a lot of current in the Macatawa River. Biggest thing you usually have to fight is wind. All right, so I'm just at the edge of Windmill Island. Looking at plants, I think I might see marshmallow. Not marshmallows. We're not going to make s'mores, but I think, I can't tell if that's it or not, a flower that is like a hibiscus. It's a large flower that has a broad pink to kind of purple, like maybe like a rose pink or something like that color. But it's native to the area, and it lives along the edges of rivers. So, shoot, it's just, I see it still, but it's just outside of my view to be able to share with you. But it does look very much like a hibiscus. Well, there's a real current going on today. So I'm going to experiment here. I don't know how far I'm going to get, but if you've ever been up through the sluice gate, I'm going to see how I can do with doing a little bit of a limbo underneath this bridge up here. Again, I apologize for anybody that's getting seasick as I paddle here. Oh, there was a kingfisher that just flew straight over. Oh boy. If you can see in your view, the Dutch flags to the right side of the frame. This is going to be so hard to see. I apologize. But there is a kingfisher there. He's flying over the water surface now. All right, what I'm doing is I'm going to try to get you over to main channel of the river, but I'm going to have to kind of go underneath the bridge over here. We'll see how I do. Keep your head down. I'm not going to go straight ahead. I'm going to go a little bit left. Not that small. It'll get chopped off if I try to go through there. I'm going to go on the left side here. So maybe a different view that you're seeing of Windmill Island. Probably have walked over this bridge before. This is another place where you sometimes get a lot of spiders. There we go. That was easy. I didn't even have to duck very hard. Very much. All right, so now we're going to go up through sluice gate here and get to the river. Go, main channel of the river, and then we're going to go down river to our left. This is where, once we're in the main channel of the river, we'll look for other species here. Maybe I'll be able to catch a turtle for us. If you've never been to Windmill Island's boat launch, there is one. Just across that footpath, I get the boat turned so you can see it. There's actually a boat launch right here off of the edge of the wall. So you can launch from Windmill Island and then take out, if you have the ability to coordinate it, then you take out at window on the waterfront where I put in, if you didn't want to do a full circle. All right, now this is where I'm hoping to be able to see things like a green heron, another spotted sandpiper, map turtle, snapping turtle, soft shell turtle, all species that we've seen recently. I mean, this is in the matter of the last couple of weeks, we've seen these species here. We do a lot of summer camps and use this stretch of river often. So, oh, I see a map turtle. I don't know if it's gonna let me get close. Straight ahead. I'm gonna let the boat kind of float towards it. Maybe it'll let me catch it. It's gonna be a little bit right of frame. Ah, went in. It's hard. I'm actually trying to not knock my phone off of the holder I have in my boat. So I apologize. I usually sneak up a little bit better, but I'm trying not to whack my phone into the water. See if there's any turtles on this side here. These logs over here can be great places for water snakes too. We have in the last couple of times we've done trips down here. I know at their summer camps. I don't do the summer camps, but I know I've heard about water snake hanging out in this area somewhere. Let's see it. It's the northern water snake. It's non-venomous, but also non-friendly. I do see a kingfisher now. I don't know if he's going to let me see him at all. So I'm going to slowly let my boat float, and he's in the trees left of center. Maybe you'll hear him too. There he goes. That's a kingfisher. I say he, and I know it was a he because he didn't have a brown belt on. So male and female belted kingfisher. Oh boy, I wish I had a bigger boat. There's a 50-gallon drum in the river here that I can't do anything about. Shoot. The kingfishers, the males actually have less color than the females. So the females have what looks like a brown belt across their belly, hence the name belted kingfisher, but the males do not. So if you see, oh, it's right there. No, that was the female. I saw the brown belt actually, come to think of it. Again, I know this is difficult for you to be able to pick up all this stuff. It's easier. Your eyes are going to always be, I don't know if there'll ever be a day where digital and optics are going to be better than the human eye. Because I can see things really well right now that you're not able to see, I'm sure. So we're just going around Windmill Island right now. Let's see if this kingfisher, it's at the very top of the frame. Oh, there you go. You're not going to be able to see it well, but there was a female. She had her brown belt on. We're going around the edge of Windmill Island. In just a moment, you might pick up some kind of industrial sounds. That's going to be going by Boar's Head. Boar's Head meat that's on Douglas over by, towards the direction of like the Goodwill and Sam's Club, Walmart area. You're going to go behind, it's like Bauman and DeGroot Heating and Cooling, is Boar's Head Meats. So you might pick up that kind of industrial sound to my right, your right of the factory. Ooh, I just saw a fish fly and a hummingbird too. So there's a lot of activity today. I just wish it was closer. There's just not a lot of things close up for us to see. Oh, the kingfisher flying. And this is what they typically do. You might see it in that tree branch just above the river now, straight ahead from me. There he goes. There she goes. She's just inching along ahead of me in the river. She's not flying over, very far away. She's just, I'm kind of pushing her along. Sorry, it's not on purpose. I'm just kind of pushing her along as I go, as she's looking for food. Again, it's, oh, there she goes flying again though. They fly close to the water and then they'll come up to a perch. So as opposed to a lot of birds that will fly from, a straight line flight into a perch, there's several species that will actually do this, where they'll fly towards a perch and then fly up to it, kind of like an upturned flight just at the end. I had some wood ducks that just took off next to me too. There's a turtle straight ahead. I'm going to let myself just paddle right or float right towards it. Oh, man, they're quick today. That was another map turtle. That species of turtle that has the keeled shell so that they can be in fast moving water. That keel helps them stay straight going through a current. Surprised I haven't seen a different species of turtle yet. I apologize if you're picking up some wind now in my microphone. I know I have wind in my face now, and that's what makes me think again that we were seeing a wind-related current, because I think the water is going faster upstream than downstream because of the wind today. Not uncommon. That's just the surface water. The river's still flowing downstream, but surface water is actually moving inland. So that was a wood duck that just took off in front of me there. Kingfisher keeps flying away. What I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to get around the corner of the marsh habitat here and kind of sit in a place where I can be protected by the wind a little bit. I'll flip my camera around. We'll talk just a little bit more and then let you guys think if you have any questions about the marsh, about the habitat, about the wildlife that lives here, flora and fauna both. I certainly don't know everything, but I'd be happy to try to answer questions that you have.
Okay, let's see, Jamie. I have a question from Jane. What is the history of the old pump house?
Oh, that's a great question. I don't know actually the whole history on it. That's a really good question. I just know that's what it's referred to as, the old pump house. I wish I could tell you. I'm not the historian. Is there anything else?
Not yet, just a comment, beautiful travel log of the marsh.
Oh, that's good.
If anybody else has any questions, feel free to unmute yourself a minute and ask. Oh, here comes one. Is the duckweed more dense than it was years ago?
No, it's not. And actually, I didn't really get into this, did I, much? So the duckweed is a good plant to have here. Think of it like an umbrella. In those areas of the marsh where there's no other shelter, the duckweed acts like an umbrella to keep the water temperature down, and it filters. So it's a good thing to have in the marsh. And I would not say that it's any worse than other places or other times of the year in years past. It's like here in the open part of the river, there's none, right? But as soon as I get into the marsh, I would expect a full mat of duckweed. Now, what people sometimes experience when we have a large storm that rolls through and the water levels go up, that makes it so it dislodges duckweed. And so all of a sudden, people out on the edges of Lake Macatawa or even into Lake Michigan see duckweed, and they think, oh man, what's going on? It's an outbreak, or something. And it's not. And again, it's not a bad thing. It's not toxic. Lots of animals eat it. But what you're seeing is it got pushed out because of that high water level. As more water makes it into the center of the marsh when the water rises.
Is its
Right.
presence?
I see a spot that I think I'm going to be able to get to.
Has the duckweed
Pretty
cover
good wind.
increased?
Pretty good headwind coming at me now.
Jamie, somebody is asking, how easy is it to get lost and or stuck in the marsh?
Stuck? I mean, it's a possibility, but never so much stuck that you can't unstuck.
Right.
Your biggest things are like the floating cattails. I got kind of hung up on one for a minute. I was
Yeah.
able to get out, no problem. Sometimes there's submerged logs or something like that, but I've never had a problem getting unstuck, so to speak.
Okay.
And without much effort, you can move around and reorient yourself.
Sure.
If you're a person that is directionally challenged at times, with little effort, you can get yourself to a position where you can see, a landmark. You can see Freedom Village. You can see the windmill or something else that you'll be able to orient yourself from.
Yeah.
So
And then Helen is asking, she says that some years ago, she participated in a cleanup in that same area.
Yep.
In kayaks, and she thinks it was ODC sponsored. Are there any plans for that sort of thing this year?
We do it every single spring and every single fall. So that's been something that's been going on in the area since, before we took management. Once we flip my screen here, we took management of the Macatawa River Greenway back in 2009.
Okay.
So even before 2009, when we took over management of the Macatawa River Greenway, we've been doing cleanups. So some years we plan the cleanups 6 months in advance. And some years the weather has not been conducive to getting into boats because of wind or temperature. We do follow a 100-degree rule where if the water temperature and air temperature do not reach 100 degrees when added together, we don't go in boats. It's just a safe practice when we're working with groups. Individuals may make a different choice, but as a group, we don't do that for the sake of hypothermia. On a 55-degree day, if it's 40-degree water temperatures, a person can still experience hypothermia, even though it's not below freezing.
Okay. And then Bruce is asking, is the duckweed population driven by phosphorus from fertilizer in the runoff?
Oh, good question. No, it is not actually. It's a naturally occurring thing. You'll find it sticks to everything. I mean, this is my legs are covered in it. I'm sure I've got it in other places on my body. So it's a naturally occurring plant in water systems. It's easily transported from one waterway to another, thanks to animals, turtles, frogs, ducks, herons, egrets. All those types of birds will transfer it, and animals will transfer it from one place to another. But it is not, there's no direct correlation to phosphorus or other sediments in the water. It is just a naturally occurring thing in our waterways, not typically in fast-moving rivers. But again, where I am here in the marsh all around me, I see lots of duckweed in the marsh.
Wow. And then we have a member who says, wonderful tour. He also has Google Maps satellite open on another screen. So he's following your progress with a high level perspective.
That's wonderful. That's really fun.
He's techie. I'm not a bit surprised. That's all I have right now. If anybody else wants to type something in or ask, go ahead.
I apologize. I took off my watch. I don't have any idea what time it is.
10:37. So you're doing great.
Okay. So I don't have a whole lot more to offer. Just thinking about the marsh in general, it is a healthy habitat. So we are fortunate to have the Macatawa Marsh here. If we think back to, 100 years and 200 and 300 years ago, it was different and it was maybe more healthy. We were moving in the right direction. Our trajectory is in a positive direction thanks to community support. We have things like Project Clarity, which is it's something that we at Outdoor Discovery Center are a significant part of course, but it is definitely embraced by the municipalities and cities and government entities. But it's a whole watershed effort to clean up the watershed. But then also we have the Macatawa River Greenway, and that is a project that seeks to acquire properties along the river's edge or along that river corridor, whether it's the main channel or one of the tributaries, where we acquire properties, we potentially create recreational opportunities in them, but also we preserve them. So there's not development, housing, industrial, farming, whatever it might be, right up to the water's edge. If we're able to help preserve some of the habitat along the edge of the river, it's going to end up only helping the overall health of that plant and animal community.
Awesome.
This has been a very beautiful experience for me. People will travel to Giverny Gardens near Paris in order to find something comparable to this. I'm wondering if we could make this available to people at tulip time. It's a the view that we get of the windmill, for example, from this marsh is just outstanding. And I'm wondering if there are ways that we can exploit the beauty of what you've done today in other ways.
I wonder too. I mean, certainly 2 years ago, 3 years ago, let's say maybe in 2018, we wouldn't have been able to do what I did today. The water levels over the last couple of years, if any of you have lakeshore homes or know someone that has a lakeshore home, know that water levels have risen. But as of a couple of years ago, it would have been truly impossible to make it up into the marsh as far as I did. So is it possible to share this with other visitors in our community? For sure. We're fortunate at Outdoor Discovery Center to own a fleet of kayaks, and we do lead kayak tours. It's just one of those things you got to have people that find interest in it. I love the idea of even a virtual tour. Maybe not, it's not for everyone, to get into a boat and get full of duckweed and having to swim through cattails. Maybe that's not everybody's experience that they want, but it is certainly one that at least we can share this in a virtual way. I think it's outstanding.
Great. There's a question, how far up is the river navigable by kayak?
So from the pier heads, certainly all through Lake Macatawa, you can get up past Windmill Island and Paw Paw Park, which is like the old country club area.
Oh, yeah.
I think probably Paw Paw Park might be about as far as you can get. On a regular day, if the water levels are higher, let's say, you might be able to get to Adam Street Landing, which is one of the Ottawa County Parks river accesses to the Macatawa River.
Yep.
And that's at Adam Street and 196. So there is a way you can get in there. I know that we had a summer camp 2 weeks ago, maybe 1 or 2 weeks ago, that put in at Adam Street Landing and went all the way down to Window on the Waterfront where I put in. And they said they had to, I think twice, get out of their boats because there were large trees across the river that blocked their path.
Okay.
You never want to go underneath a large tree that's across the river like this, because what could happen is you get underneath it and you get tipped and you get spilled and then you get sucked down into the water. So if you do have to kayak, don't go under large deadfall trees like that if you can help it.
We have someone who says they're thinking about getting a kayak and wonders if you have any suggestions in that regard.
If you've never really kayaked much, start small. Don't go big. Start small. You can pick up for like $300. You can pick up a nice, comfortable kayak that will have everything that you need as a starter.
Yeah.
You have to have a personal flotation device, a PFD. You have to have this per DNR rules. So it doesn't have to be physically on you. I choose to do that to set a good example, but it has to be on the boat. A paddle and a boat, you should be able to pick up $300, $350, pick something up. I mean, it could be as simple as going to like Meyer or something like that. I know that, Dick's Sporting Goods and all those local stores that have a variety of sporting goods merchandise often have like a dozen kayaks. I think I saw kayaks at like Family Fair one time.
Yes.
Those are okay to go with, especially as a starter boat. When you get into it further, that's where you open up your wallet more. The boat that I'm in now is I don't remember what this is. It's it's an Old Town boat, probably about $1,000 boat. Fortunately, we've had it for 12 years. So if you're willing to make a long-term investment, you can get a nice boat for sure, but it's going to have to be something that you're comfortable doing. I wouldn't recommend going out and buying the, $1,800 worth of boat and paddle and vest unless you truly have that desire to be in the boat frequently. Start small. I always suggest start small and move up.
Yeah. And then Don is asking if you can tell us anything about the various chemical treatments being used in local waters.
So chemical treatments, I'm curious what he's thinking about. If he's referring to like the chemicals that we've used to hit the Phragmites or the common reed. I'm struggling to remember the name of it, but it is, shoot, can't think of the name of it off the top of my head, but it's a Roundup-like product that is applied. But again, it becomes inactive and inert when it hits the water. It is something that we have people that are certified to apply it that are using it. Shoot.
Okay.
Can't think of what it's called. It's escaping me at the moment. I apologize. Other than that, there are no other treatments we're doing to the waterways themselves. We do have places where we have overflow, like over in our Macatawa mitigation bank, which is over by the Hayworth World Headquarters. We have a property that we're fortunate to have been given to us by the Hayworth family as kind of a permanent loan status. I think I'm not on the business side of this, so I apologize, but it's Macatawa Mitigation Bank. And actually we have filters that when the water overflows from the river into these wetlands, before the water is able to be returned to the river, it goes through a filtration process. So it's all like passive charcoal filtration kind of process stuff. I don't have all the ins and outs on that one. You're welcome to email the guy that knows the most about some of those types of things. His name is Dan Callum. You're welcome to email him. It's Dan C at outdoordiscovery.org. That's Dan, the letter C, at outdoordiscovery.org. And I'm sure he'd be happy to share with you any of the other details on that one. It's just not, unfortunately, all the things that I have full knowledge of.
Well, Don, the same person just chimed in and just said, yes, in addition to Phragmites, they are treating in the Pigeon River near Lakeshore Ave.
Oh, I'm not sure what they're treating in the Pigeon. That's potentially the Ottawa County Parks. I don't know what they're treating. If they're treating the Phragmites, it might be the same kind of a thing where it's an application directly to, and it's an herbicide application directly to the plants. I'm not aware of them doing any other treatments though. It's certainly possible that they are. I'm just not familiar with what they're doing. The water that's being discharged from the consumer's power plant, it comes through a couple of gates, and there's things that are out there, but I'm not sure there's any filtration that happens because that's just cooling water that comes out of the plant. I don't think there's any sediments or other things that are being introduced to the water. It's just cooling water.
Okay, great. That's all I have.
All right. Well, I don't have anything else to share with you. Anybody has any other questions, you're welcome to give us a call at Outdoor Discovery Center. Like I said, the guy that knows the most about the Greenway is Dan Callum. Dan C at outdoordiscovery.org, but you're also welcome to contact me. My email is similar. It's Jamie, Jamie at outdoordiscovery.org. And I'd be happy to answer any questions or pass you to a person who does have an answer to a question that you have. We'll do our best. So I want to thank you for having me here for this paddle. It's actually getting quite hot. I kind of wish I had my hat so I could see you all better, but it is a nice day in the marsh. I'm glad that we had a chance to explore it. It is a very unique habitat. I encourage you to find time to get out and explore it if you can, maybe on one of our river encounters or even on your own. It's not too hard to get to. I'm all of 5 minutes from downtown Holland, yet I'm sitting in the middle of a marsh. So it's outstanding.
Great. Bruce, do you want to wrap us up?
Sure. I just wanted to thank our HAST members for signing up for this adventure. Thank you again to Peg Van Grauw for inspiring me to pursue this as a topic. And this is a cool thing. And Jamie, as you said, it is 5 minutes from downtown, and here we are in a whole new world. So thank you for participating. This has been a production of the Science, Medicine, and Technology Subcommittee. If you have ideas for other such things you'd like to see, our new chair is Susan Couch. So you can get a hold of her or me, and we will see what other adventures we can convene. So thank you all. Have a good day.
Thanks.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everybody.
Hey,
I
Jamie,
have
stay
a
on for a
comment.
second. I got to tell you something.
I have a comment.
Oh, go ahead, Suzanne.
Yeah, I got my first experience as a kayaker in the same area, and there's such a feeling of release there.